Yes, welcome into SportsBit. Betting and Insight today, Pauly and Teddy. Tuesday, May 31st. We start NFL team previews, deep dive the Denver Broncos, and we look to make it 6 out of 7 with the play of the day. Arietta and the Cubs go at it in big game breakdown. We start bad beats, bad bets. For the first time since 1981 in the conference finals, a team rallies down 3-1 to win the series. The Warriors were down 13 in the second quarter. The Warriors have a winning record when they're down doubles this year. They're down doubles in Game 6. They're down double digits in Game 7. They win for the 17th time when they were down double digits, and they move on to the finals. Great series. They win in 7. Teddy, what do we have an early series price? We had some movement early on.
Yeah, we sure did. I mean, Golden State opens -5.5, total 210 for Game 1 of the finals against the Cavs. That series starts on Thursday. Series price. Golden State opened as low as -185 here in Las Vegas. Offshore, we saw the Warriors open as high as -240 in that range. There was a pretty significant dichotomy between one sportsbook and the next. The markets still aren't mature yet, Pauly, but you can find the Warriors anywhere from -210 to -240 right about now. Take back on Cleveland, +180 to +$2. You can find 2-1 on the Cavs if you like Cleveland to win the series, if you're able to shop around.
Yep, 3's bigger than 2, and the three-pointer did in OKC in the last 2 games. Here's a tweet. Clay and Steph had 33s combined in the last 2 games. The 1986 finals, there were 17 made threes in the entire series. How about that? Westbrook, the last 2 games, 17 of 48 shooting. And after what we talked about on yesterday's show in the meltdown and hero ball, when OKC scored 18 points in the fourth quarter, 12 points in the third quarter, Teddy. And that huge run at the end of the second quarter carried over in the third quarter. Next thing you know, the Warriors had the lead.
The next thing you know, the Warriors are up 13.
Yeah,
I mean,
right.
I'll give OKC credit, because the reality is that when Golden State went up 13 in the third, I thought this team's done. And Oklahoma City fought back, and Durant went on that monster run in the fourth to cut the lead to 4. But then, the key play from the straight up perspective was Ibaka fouling Curry, because at that moment the Thunder had scored 7 in a row. Durant was unstoppable, etc., etc. OKC was live. Curry gets to the free throw line, it hits the 3 free throws, and boom! All of a sudden it's a 7-point game, and now OKC's not winning. From a point spread perspective, the key play obviously is Curry hitting the 3 to put them up 10, and that was such a dagger. And of course, if you had Golden State minus the points, that dribble out over the last 16 seconds, one of the happiest, well, by far the happiest moment of the game, Pauly, because that's when you cash your ticket. But worth noting, look at this graphic. You talk about the 3-point shooting. Oklahoma City, 20% from beyond the arc in their last 2 games. Meanwhile, the Warriors hit 38 3-pointers in Game 6 and Game 7 combined. That's the difference in the series.
Yep, good job by the Warriors bench, and Iguodala gets the start. He was awesome, especially the last 2 games on defense. And a bad bet, the over. Never had a chance. Game could have gone to overtime. You still were cashing that ticket.
Yeah, let's talk about Iggy for a minute.
Sure,
last year's Finals MVP. He did get the rare start, and if you notice, Curry and Thompson had 13 3-pointers, 57 points between them. Who was on the floor for the longest? Yeah, Andre Iguodala. No monster individual stats, but his defense. What are we going to call it? A+?
Yeah.
I wouldn't call it any less than that for the second consecutive ball game.
Somebody paid $29,000 each for 2 courtside seats.
Worth it.
All right.
If you have that kind of scratch, what do you want to spend it on? You don't want to spend it on a Game 7. I've never spent $30,000 on a pair of tickets. I don't think I ever will, Paul. But if you're in that jet set lifestyle, that's what you want. Let's talk about that total for a minute, though, because I have to talk. There was no line move on the total. It really went, open 219.5, closed 219.5. There was good two-way action on that. The fourth quarter live wagering total was never higher than 190. That's a good 29.5 points below the closing total. And, of course, that over lost by 35 points. As you mentioned, could have withstood an overtime if need be.
Yep.
Yeah, the over was a bad bet.
In-game wagering delight. Every commercial break just hit the under. They had no chance. To our winner yesterday, play of the day, game one of the Stanley Cup Finals, under 5.5. It was 2-2 going into the third period, 3-2 final. So we cashed the ticket there. But man, this is what you have in the NHL playoffs with the open net, and Pittsburgh missed it twice. They could have sent the game over, and then to cover the puck line. Oh, that's a good sweat in the final 90 seconds there with the open net.
Well, that's just it. I mean, I honestly think that's the final minute of a hockey game can be the toughest route in sports. It really can. I hate watching hockey when I have a bet on the game. I do. There's no joy in it. It's just all stress. It doesn't matter if you have the under, if you have plus 1.5 on the puck line. When that net is empty, it is a sweat and a half.
Yeah.
But we're lucky, Paul. They had, as you mentioned, a couple of chances, but we were able to cash that under 5.5 ticket. The hook made all the difference.
How about some bad bets? They're betting against the Cubs yesterday. What are they doing? They went against Hamill. He left with an injury. The Dodgers had one hit and got shut out.
Yeah, they didn't have a base runner after the first inning. The only hit was a bloop single that got lost in the sun. But the markets bet the Cubs down from -150 to -$1.25. Seems like the wise guys have a hard-on for betting against Jason Hamill. Didn't work out so well on Memorial Day.
Hey, family show. Come on. No, I'm just kidding. Here's another one.
Show my ass.
Yeah, right. What? The Twins were a small road favorite? What was that all about?
I don't know. You're asking me, and I can't tell you. I mean, the shop somehow opened the 15-34 Minnesota Twins as road favorites.
Yeah.
Not home favorites. They're road favorites against a team that's better than them. Of course, the books took a beating on this game. Minnesota went from -113 to Oakland -130. The A's win 3-2, and of course, the Twins did not have an extra base hit in the ballgame.
Another bad beat. Baylor hires Jim Grobe to be their head coach to replace Bryles. I thought Bennett would probably get that job, but no. And then the AD says, "I've seen enough. I'm out of here." He quit.
Yeah, it's not just us that didn't want Jim Grobe to run the Baylor program. The AD says 5 minutes after he gets hired, "Thanks, but no thanks. I'll take my wares elsewhere." I don't know that Grobe's the right fit to run an Art Briles offense. I thought Bennett made a lot of sense. He's been a head coach before at SMU in Texas, in the same area. He's a good defensive mind. Grobe running this offense it's confusing to me. And he's a great hire if you want to rebuild a program. I don't know if he's the guy to keep Baylor at the top. And of course, Mike Singletary, who interviewed for 500 head coaching jobs before he got one. Yeah, he interviewed for the Baylor job. The guy just does not interview well, does he, Paul?
No, it sure doesn't. That was, it's a mess in Baylor. Up next, big game breakdown. Pirates Marlins, Cole against Fernandez, and Cubs Dodgers, Casimir against Arrieta. Plus, we start our team previews with the Denver Broncos. It's coming up on SportsBit. Betting Insight today on SBRPicks.com.
Find the best tennis odds for each Grand Slam event. Research before you bet on SportsbookReview.com.
All right, back on SportsBit. Big game breakdown. Pirates and the Marlins. Marlins at home, $1.35, 7 the total. It's Cole against Fernandez. A great showdown here. Cole got off to a late start this season because of an injury, but despite the good numbers, he's still not back on his game, Teddy.
No, he really isn't. And again, you look at the straight numbers. Last year he goes 19-8 with a 2.60 ERA. This year, 5-3, 2.53 ERA. You say, all right, it's the same Garrett Cole. But then you start to take a deeper look. That's what we want to do here on SportsBit, not accept the numbers at face value. Look at this. Strikeouts per 9 innings down. Walks per 9 innings up. Ground ball rate down. Swinging strike percentage down. Fielding independent pitching up. Sierra way up. Guess what? The win-loss and the ERA are hiding the fact that Garrett Cole has taken a drop across the board in a whole host of key categories, Pauly. Worth noting, last 2 starts, he faced 52 batters, giving up 17 hits, 4 walks, and only 5 strikeouts during that span.
Then you have Fernandez, who's won his last 3 road starts, and his home-away splits are starting to converging. If you look at this graphic, in his career, home 21-1 with a 1.64 ERA, away 8-10 with a 3.54. This year, home 4-1 with an ERA of 3, away 3-1 with a 2.61. So he pitches with confidence at home because of the great results, but a 1.64 ERA is not supposed to get you to 21-1, Teddy.
Yeah, and again, you're talking about diverging to the mean or converging to the mean. So what's going to happen? The road starts were an issue. Now we're seeing the road starts no longer be an issue
Yes.
for Fernandez. So, do the home starts then start to revert to the mean? He's obviously exceeding. I mean, a $1.64 ERA is very good. It doesn't get you 21-1. It doesn't get anybody 21-1. We've seen these crazy numbers for Arrieta. We'll talk about him in a minute. But in this instance, you just wonder, maybe Fernandez is going to come back to earth in terms of home success. That being said, the Marlins still not sure where they're going to get Giancarlo Stanton back, Paulie. The last thing you want to do with a slumping player, and we talked about how Stanton was slumping, is rush him back before he's physically ready. Christian Yelich has come back in the starting lineup, but he's only 1 of 9 since his return.
Game number 2, the Dodgers and the Cubs. Casimir against Arrieta. Cubbies 230. No early totals at Wrigley. And it's been a roller coaster ride here lately for Casimir. And I guess we could blame some of that on Dave Roberts. 3 starts back, Roberts tried to get a complete game out of Casimir at home against St. Louis. That was a bad move. He hadn't even finished the 7th inning all season. He threw 120 pitches before Roberts pulled him in the 9th. Next game out at San Diego, he had nothing. He only went 5 2/3, season high 7 walks, so it showed the total in the Cardinal game. But back in the normal routine, after 106 pitches, he dominated the Reds with 12 strikeouts in 6 innings pitched, struck out 12 of the 23 batters he faced. Do we discount the San Diego result about how it's set up and what Roberts did, Teddy?
The answer is yes, of course we do. And again, the goal of SportsBit, you take the raw numbers, look deeper. Here's a situation where you had one bad start from a guy for a perfectly reasonable reason why he had a bad start. You're not supposed to go. Scott Casimir is not supposed to be throwing 120 pitches now. He threw 120 pitches. Roberts tried to get cute and get him the complete game. Didn't happen. So the next start out, he pitches poorly. You have to discount that result. You have to throw it out, and you have to look at the fact that last time out and pitching in normal rhythm, when you're striking out 12 of the 23 batters you face, you're doing something right. That's pretty good numbers for a guy who's an underdog of plus $2 or more.
All right, now it's time for Arrieta. Here's the run. Look at this graphic. 2016. In his starts, the Cubbies are 10-0. They're 8-2 covering the run line. Run differential of plus 59. Last 23 starts, he's tied the record. The Cubs have won all 23, and they're 20-3 covering the run line. Run differential plus 103, so it goes for the record. But he struggled in his last start at St. Louis, gave up 4 runs, and as the heat picks up in the summer with the weather, maybe the stamina becomes an issue because of the workload in 2015. Counting the postseason, he's up to 311 innings pitched the last 2 years. But for everything that he's accomplished, Teddy, you got to talk about Zobrist and what he's doing with this Cubs offense.
Well, first I got to talk about the Dodgers offense. I mean, even if there are issues with Arrieta, and even if Arrieta is coming off a rare bad start, can the Dodgers hit anybody right now?
No.
I mean, as we talked about earlier, their only hit yesterday came in the first inning on a bloop single. Justin Turner hit a bloop. And then they didn't have a base runner over the final 8 innings. They close out the game on an 0 for 25 cycle. This is not a team that's hitting the baseball right now. Not even a little bit. But, yeah, you talk about the Dodgers' entire lineup. I don't know if they've matched what Ben Zobrist has done. Zobrist has been a monster now. He's reached base in 35 straight games. Look at the slash line. 351 batting average, 451 on-base percentage, 542 slugging. He can play just about any position on the field. He can bat just about anywhere in the lineup. He hit leadoff yesterday with Dexter Fowle getting a day off. The wins above replacement, WAR rates him as the number 4 player in baseball so far. Yeah, good move, Theo Epstein. You got the right guy in the offseason.
Yep, and live odds, remember, sportsbookreview.com. All right, excited for this. Up next, deep dive. Team previews. We start with the champs, the Denver Broncos, and we try to make it 6 out of 7 with the play of the day on SportsBit. Betting Insight today on SBRPicks.com.
Go to SBRodds.com. Browse, compare, and shop live odds available at top online sportsbooks.
All right, here we go. Deep dive NFL team preview. The Denver Broncos. Season win total 9.5. Last year, 12-4 straight up, 8-8 ATS, 6-10 to the under, -4 in turnovers, and they led the league in thrown interceptions. How about that? Manning played 8.5 games, and he was 1 interception away from leading the entire league.
First of all, Paulie, we got to take a minute here. We're talking football.
Yes, we're close. We're close.
It's so much fun. I know it's the last day of May, but we will be doing team previews throughout the month of June and into July. It's something to talk about. It's something to get thinking about. And the win total marketplace matures earlier and earlier every single season. So when we do these team previews, we're going to talk a lot about what happened last year. We're going to get a starting point for where teams are at. We're going to talk about the personnel moves. We're going to talk about the real strength of schedule, not the nonsense that you find in some of the online venues. We're going to talk about the division we're playing in. We're going to talk about the special teams. This is a deep dive into all 32 NFL teams. Enjoy, get ready, here we go. You talked about last year. And Super Bowl champs, 8-8 against the spread. That's a little bit of a surprise. Usually this team that wins Super Bowl covers a whole bunch of numbers. -4 in turnovers, that's a little bit of a surprise. Usually the Super Bowl champ has a positive turnover margin. But the one stat that stands out, obviously, the number 1 overall defense. The offense ranked number 16, despite Manning's 67.9 QB rating. That was ranked 34 out of 34 NFL quarterbacks with enough attempts to qualify. But that number 1 defense, Paul, was all the difference, obviously, for Denver. A defense that won them, most of their games last year.
No kidding. It was like 1980 all over again. Field position, punt, and try to win 20-17, and it worked out. Now, let's talk about the personnel moves. Over the weekend, Kubiak said it's an open competition. My guy Kubiak said he actually likes Trevor Siemian, which, when the other choices are Sanchez and Lynch, why not? But you got Sanchez, Lynch, and Siemian at the quarterback position as Osweiler goes to Houston and Manning retires.
Yeah, I mean, you're going to like Trevor Siemian if your other 2 choices are Paxton Lynch and Mark Sanchez. Guess what? Siemian looks better and better with that too, although no one would be shocked to see Sanchez come out as the opening day starter. But you know what you're going to get with Mark Sanchez. You're going to get a lot of mediocrity. Let's talk about some of the other additions and subtractions for Denver. They lose Malik Jackson, they lose Owen Daniels, they lose Louis Vasquez. They trade Ryan Clady to the Jets. Danny Trevathan goes to Chicago. And, of course, Brock Osweiler goes to Houston. The additions, Mark Sanchez and a couple of big guys in the offensive line, Russell Okung and Donald Stevenson. So, really, when you look at the personnel moves, they lost a couple of key defenders, but the heart of the defense is still there. They lost the guy who would be their starting quarterback in Osweiler. They have Mark Sanchez instead. And an offensive line that really wasn't that good last year. Shifted a couple of guys in and out of place. No more Clady, no more Vasquez. Instead, Okung and Stevenson. I grade that as a net positive for Denver when it comes to the offensive line. Although it remains to be seen as to how positive, because realistically, this was not an elite offensive line a year ago.
Schedule strength, average, tough 3-game stretch to start the season. Carolina, Indy, and the Bengals, but 2 of them are at home. Only 1 home game, Kansas City, between Halloween and mid-December. 4 of 5 on the road, plus a late bye. Then that December 18th home game is against the Patriots, who are in revenge mode. And I think this is a hell of a division.
Yeah, I'm going to disagree with you there, Paulie. I'm not sold on this division. The Raiders are on the way up. San Diego wasn't good last year. They have some potential. I'm not sold that they're going to be real good this year. I don't think KC is going to match what they did last year. I really don't. Much of their success over the back half of the season was schedule related. So there's really no dramatic difference from last year in terms of the toughness of the division. Last year, Denver in division, 4-2 straight up, 3-3 against the spread. 2 of the 3 covers were fraudulent, Paulie.
Yep.
You remember them covering week 2 against Kansas City when they had the late TD and then the fumble 6 at the end of regulation?
Yeah,
and that game against the Raiders where the offense didn't do anything. Yeah. And they won 16-10. Oakland kept on screwing up in the fourth quarter.
Pick 6 in that game.
Sure was. There was no shortage of pick 6. It felt like 5 non-offensive touchdowns last year, and it felt like every one of them covered a point spread and/or sent an under game over the total. There was a Raider game, there was a Chiefs game, there was a Browns game. The non-offensive scores last year made under bettors nuts, and it made anti-Denver better nuts as well.
Special teams, it's good to have a guy like McManus, who anytime the drive stalls, you can count on that guy from at least 55 to make a field goal.
Yeah, and Kubiak settles for 3. McManus hit 5 from 50 plus last year, And over the course of the season, he was a real weapon, obviously, because Kubiak is not a guy who's going to go for it on fourth down. He's no Belichick in that regard, and that doesn't often make Denver a great favorite because you have a coach who's settling for three. They also have a great punter in Colquitt. So we talk about a team with above average special teams coming to the campaign, and that's something the markets don't factor in at all. Special teams, if you find teams that really have elite special teams or really lousy special teams, they don't show up in stats very well. Keep your eye on those squads. They're going to be perennially valued incorrectly in the marketplace as a result.
Well, I think we agree on this one. The only way to look here is under 9.5.
Yeah, I mean, this feels like a 9-win squad. You're not going to get rich betting 9-win squads under 9.5 or over 9.5 for that matter. But this is a league that the quarterback position is fairly important. And when you're grading out the NFL teams, I don't know if I'm going to grade out Denver at number 32 at QB, but I'm sure going to not grade them out a whole lot better than that. Maybe 31, maybe 30, maybe 29. Bottom tier QB squads, you can't bet them over 9.5 wins. Look at Denver, under 9.5. That's the early lean.
All right, well done there. Good job. Here we go. Let's make it 6 out of 7. Money time. Play of the day. Where are we going, Teddy?
Let's go to Miami. Take a look at Jose Fernandez and the Miami Marlins, game number 904. Marlins minus 135. And of course, the absence of Giancarlo Stanton is not as big of a deal as long as Marcell Ozuna keeps hitting. The guy's hitting 339 with 10 homers and 27 ribbies. Over the last 10 games, he's just shy of 500 while also drawing walks. So he's on base 23 times in his last 43 plate appearances. Let's take a look at the Marlins, minus 135. That's the play of the day.
All right, fun show. Beautiful. Fast-paced. Tomorrow, NBA Finals preview. And we'll sneak in some more games as well. Bad beats, bad bets on SportsBit. Betting Insight today on SBRPicks.com.